Welcome to Chart of the Day. I'm Robert Folsom. Who or what is leading the Fed? It was barely 2 years ago when the Fed funds target rate stood at 1%. Along our timeline, that would have been right about here, as recently as the morning of June 14th, 2017. Yet a lot can happen in 24 months, including a rise in the Fed funds rate all the way to 2.5%. Question is, why? Why did the Fed raise its benchmark rate that much in such a relatively brief time? Well, the answer to that question is simple enough to show you. Here we have U.S. Treasury bill yields. The yellow line is 3-month T-bill yields. The green line is 6-month T-bill yields. Here's the rate or yield for these T-bills. Next, we'll introduce a third line or rate, which will be especially relevant after I mention a couple of facts about T-bills. Treasury bills are the most liquid and least risky debt security. Investors know that behind T-bills stands the full faith and credit of the U.S. Treasury, and there is always a market for basically risk-free debt. But speaking of investors, who or what sets the yield for T-bills? The short answer is the market does. This chart shows an upward trend in yields since mid-2017, which happened because of buying and selling in the T-bill market. It's that simple. With that said, here we'll show our third rate. And perhaps you know the identity of this red rate line. Here's a hint. Look closely at the timeline and notice that as T-bill yields trend higher, the red line follows. You see it here. T-bill yields rise first, the red line follows. That sequence repeats itself here, 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 and here. Yields rise, the red line follows across this entire period. So what is this red line? It is the U.S. Fed funds target rate, which is decided by the Federal Reserve, specifically the Federal Open Market Committee. It meets 8 times per year to make monetary policy. Or put more simply, rates lead, the Fed follows. The facts are plain even if most investors, the financial media, and Wall Street assume it's the other way around. This is what the chart looked like back on Monday, March 18th, when Short-Term Update showed it to subscribers, and at that time, the headline on the chart said, "The market signals no Fed rate hike." That was then. Here's what has followed. The Fed funds rate has remained at 2.5%, but the market, namely T-bill yields, have headed lower. In this widening gap, we see that the market has made its move. It will not be long until the Fed follows. This chart published in the June 17th Short-Term Update. Please see below for more about subscribing to the Financial Forecast Service.